Hello, and welcome to Childcare Confidential. My name is Katy Dink, and I am today's host. Whoop, 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 whoop. Typically, I do have my trusty, true sidekick, Jessica Hampton. However, she is not with us today, so you are unfortunately stuck with me. Today's podcast episode is from corporate childcare to private, and what no one tells you. Wink, wink. So, corporate childcare has taught me how to survive, which is a really great topic. But private childcare taught me how to believe in myself, love my job, not want to pull my hair out. So, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects you can look at it. I thought leaving corporate would feel freeing, but it was actually quite terrifying just because they get you to believe that you are required to fit within this random box that they have created. And if you don't, you are automatically like dunzo, that kind of thing. No one warns you, though, how much your identity is tied up to a company until you decide to leave it, which is something that I had to find out the hard way, and unfortunately, not the fun way. So, a little bit of setting for today's very intriguing topic of corporate childcare. For myself, this is all going back to me. In my experience, I was in a corporate childcare center position between, all the different elements within it for roughly 7 years. Now, 7 years doesn't sound like that long, but when you work in corporate childcare, it's forever long. It's exhausting. It takes forever. You stop remembering what days are what and what needs to happen. Yeah, it's a lot. Not a fan. My role specifically within corporate childcare is I was a director, which I have to give it out to our directors in the world. I mean, the fact that we do one of the hardest jobs, but we don't get the recognition for doing said hard job, crazy in itself. So you all should be very proud and commend yourselves because that is awesome. But my role specifically is I was just the director. However, in my corporate position, I magically got to go help at every other school that needed assistance. You don't get extra pay for doing that or, any type of nice job, but you do get to go do it. So that was kind of my situation. I got to travel and help all the schools that needed it, which was great and really helped build me up to be able to take on the position that I'm currently in. What did I like about it? Well, I loved my co-directors. I really did. They're fantastic. And if any of you who did used to work with me are listening, please know that you made the job better. You were one of the key elements in making me actually enjoy part of my job. So thank you. What started feeling off? Ooh, I could go into this so deep. So, my least favorite feeling about corporate childcare, right? So in private childcare, everything is under a microscope, but in corporate, you basically could get away with anything and no one would ever know. And I don't mean like what I did and got away with. I don't mean it like that. I mean, I just know specifics about not even my old childcare corporate centers, but even other corporate centers that had nothing to do or affiliated with me. I know that they, checked kids in when they shouldn't on CCDF. I know that there was some things that maybe didn't get reported to licensing that should. Whereas for us and our position, we're constantly making sure we're above bar. And what I mean by that is any illness, I'm messaging our licensing lady and like, hey, we got two kids that got the sniffles. You want to know about it? We're not taking any chances. But in a corporate atmosphere, they basically don't have to report anything, which is crazy because we all are required to, but they just get to do whatever they want. Fine. The comfort of corporate though compared to private. Okay. When you go to corporate, you're just a number. And I don't mean that in a negative connotation either. I mean, when you're just a number, I mean that literally if you're breathing and you can follow in line with specifics of what they're telling you to do day in and day out, you're going to be hired. And you're probably going to be loved for it because they love the people that can kiss the most butt. Frustrating, but it's fine. The predictability though, oh my gosh, I loved this. So even in corporate childcare, I knew that if there was a issue with maintenance, if somebody needed something that was like medically wrong, whatever the case may be, I knew I could make a phone call and that thing would be taken care of. In private childcare, you don't have that. You are basically Bob the Builder. I fix it all, which is fine. But that was something that was pretty comfortable and predictable about corporate. The burnout. Oh my gosh. So think about doing a job, right? A job that's not hard. I wouldn't consider a director's job hard necessarily. It's emotionally taxing, but it's not a hard job. I mean, really you just follow SOPs, you maintain ratios, you meet the licensing expectations, like those things. I mean, yeah, it can be challenging, but I wouldn't consider it hard. I would just it's normal. The burnout, though, from doing a mundane job such as corporate childcare is crazy. It's the same thing over and over. And guess what? If you have an issue with a child, like a kid who constantly likes to hurt people, oh, nay, you cannot report them. You cannot kick them out. There's going to have to be a whole leg of things that you go through before you protect your peace. Ridiculous. I hate that. I hate that aspect of corporate childcare more than anything. I feel like as a director, you have the autonomy to make the decisions that are going to be the most beneficial for your school. If I run into a situation where I feel like a child is truly not a good fit for our school, we're not helping them, they're not thriving, my teachers are miserable, we should have the option to kick them out if it means that they and the school will be in a better position. Sometimes you just can't help every kiddo. And I think some people fail to realize that. I'm a very inclusive person. I feel like you should make every accommodation and every opportunity possible to make that happen, but sometimes it's just not possible. And I think people need to realize that. In corporate world of childcare though, no, you need those numbers, so you might as well just get used to it. The politics. This one drove me nuts. So imagine doing work, extra work, for an obscene amount of time with no recognition, no pay increase, no benefit, like nothing changes except for the expectation. The expectations go up, the perks go down. That's how it feels in corporate world a lot of the times. And again, this is just me and my experience, so I'm not bashing other people and how they feel about their corporate position in childcare. That's great. I hope that it is that great for you. For me, it wasn't something that filled my bucket. The ceiling. This is gross. So the very tippity top, right? The tippy top, right? You could beg them to care. You could beg them to want to notice you. You could beg them to give you attention. You could beg them to recognize you for the hard work that you put in. I was working 50 plus hours a week at my job, and it still wasn't enough to get any type of noticing to where I was going to grow within that company. That's the unfortunate part. I'm totally fine with, you pave your way, you work your way up, you have to try hard, all the things. But at the end of the day, if you're never going to see above the ceiling, which is just your cap where you're currently at, it's just not really worth it. This was my mindset before what I'm going to call the shift, okay? The shift is when you finally realize that you're over it, you want more, but maybe you're scared. Maybe you're scared about leaving. The what if I fail? Oh gosh, that's the one I hear all the time is, but what happens if I decide to leave, I try it, and then I fail? Well, what if you fail? What if? We can't live by what ifs. And then the financial fear too, because corporate's so cushiony, because you do make, I would say statistically, a little bit more in a corporate place. But again, you're just a number. They don't actually care about you or anything that you got going on. You are a number. And that's the most unfortunate piece. Again, and just in my opinion. But this is my turning point in my career, right? So I am working as a corporate director, but I'm overseeing multiple schools because, again, I get to do the extra work with no perks, no extra benefits, nothing, okay? But we're doing more for less. It's fine. And then I get a Jess that comes to me and she's like, hey girl, let's meet for lunch. So I was like, okay, cool. I love that. So we meet for lunch. It was great. We meet again. And then we meet again. And then we meet again. And then by some point, Jess and I decide that we're supposed to work together somehow, some way. So we figure out how to make this really neat dynamic where I come on board and I start working here. But that was never the plan. I never went out of my way to get away from my corporate job. What I did was meet up with another industry leader who's paving the way for our youngest humans and doing it in the right way. And I was curious. I wanted to know more. I was excited. So I decide this is the opportunity, right? But I'm so scared to tell my boss that I'm leaving because I already know it's not going to go well. So I'm like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. So I go over and I email her and I'm like, so I'm putting in my notice. I'm so sorry I got this job. I cannot pass it up. It's going to be better for my family. You know, the whole shebang. And I basically get told that I'm just ruining the company. Me, my one simple self that wasn't any more than just a number is ruining the whole organization because I decided to leave. That's wrong. That's wrong. I'm sorry. That's wrong. And I don't really care if you were upset about it. I really don't. So it's unfortunate too. I tried to justify staying. I actually told Jess no at first because I was so loyal and dedicated to my previous job. And then I realized that at some point you're going to have to stop doing things for other people and start doing them for yourself. That's the biggest thing. That is my breaking point. Is when you stop living in somebody else's bubble and idealistic world for you and you start making your own judgments, your own determinations, your own direction for where you're going in life. So I did. I decided that my peace and my happiness were more important than the cushy corporate job. I decided that. And I'm so glad I did, guys. I'm so glad I did. Corporate childcare gave me a lot of really great things. Again, I'm not trying to bash on anybody who works there. I'm not trying to bash on my previous employer. What I'm saying is corporate gave me structure. They gave me the very specifics, A, B, C, D, how you follow through with things. They gave me systems. I'd like to say they gave professionalism, but some areas more than others. But I would say, like my boss specifically, I would say that she gave professionalism. She worked her took us off. She constantly tried to do her best to check in on us. But I mean, if I'm a number, then that makes her a number. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do with that? The conflict management skills. This one's my favorite. We had like these behavior support organizations that would try to help us with these kids that had challenging behaviors, but you actually couldn't make the determinations and decisions for that child. You could only give the parent resources for them to make it, which was really frustrating. The experience with different parenting styles. This one's my favorite because yes, corporate did do that. We had to accommodate in almost every area. So like a parent who was like, I want my kid to be in timeout. Okay, well, we don't do timeout in early childhood, and that's not super developmentally appropriate, especially not in a group care setting, but you do you. But then to argue with that parent who thinks that we're wrong because they're right, not fun. And the last thing that corporate childcare gave me, for sure, I'm not sure it likely gave it to you too, thick skin. Yes, because it's so fun when everything you do is under a microscope as far as your work, right? The way that I handled a parent that decided to scream at me, wrong. The fact that I didn't allow a parent to fight me out in the parking lot, wrong. The fact that I fired that teacher who left a child unattended, wrong. Like, thick skin for sure. That doesn't even include all the kids' names that you get called because, in our positions, like, of course, the kids are going to be brutally honest, which sometimes includes the fact that you're fat or whatever else comes out of their mouth. But this is the shock, okay? The freedom is so real in private. Like, I just can't get past that part. The freedom is real, but so is the pressure, okay? Yeah, in private childcare, they set their own rates here, right? Because I do have a boss, believe it or not. She's great. Her name's Jessica. You set your rates. Well, she did, and I follow them. It doesn't actually make it better. Parents are still going to be mad regardless because childcare is expensive, and it doesn't matter if you're in corporate or private. It's all expensive. I get to negotiate though. My boss allows me to have decision-making opportunities to where I get to decide if I disagree with something she said. I get to decide how I want to do our summer camp. I get to decide how I bring in more fun and engaging things for the parents and kids and like I get to decide that. I never had that opportunity before. You advocate for yourself. Ah, yes. So my biggest takeaway from this, and if this is all you hear this entire time that you're listening to me talk, again, I'm so sorry. I know I'm not as fun as when Jess and I are together, but when you advocate for yourself, I mean truly advocate. You need to tell everyone around you all the things that you know you deserve for yourself, but you've been so frightened and scared to say, right? I know I deserve to take PTO when I deserve it, right? Corporate, I never took PTO. I was there constantly, day in and day out, working hours and hours and hours, and it was dumb. For what? Those PTO hours are mine. I should have been using them. My boss now, she's like, hey girl, when are you going to take some more vacation? What do you mean? You want me to be gone? Yes, because when I'm gone and I take care of myself, I come back and I'm ready to take care of my people. I think that more people need to take advantage of the fact that if you have PTO, you should be using it. I mean, you got to use it smartly. You can't just call in whenever you want, but you should take it. It's yours, it's part of your package. Oh, and then the pressure. So in private childcare, we don't have HR. Well, I guess we do, but it's me. I am HR. And that can get tricky sometimes because what are you supposed to do when it feels like everything is going left and you just need someone to bounce the ideas off? Now, I have some solutions to this, but it is stressful and that does bring the pressure up. My solution for anybody who maybe is in the similar position for me is you cannot complain down, you can only complain up. So talk to your boss and be like, look, I understand what my job entails. I understand what you need of me. However, what I'm saying is when I call you, sometimes I just need to vent. Sometimes I just need you to listen to me because I'm upset about something that happened and I don't want you to offer any advice. I just want you to be like a sounding board. And I think that that's 100% okay. Important in private childcare. And then the money mindset shift, right? So in corporate world, everybody I know is hourly, even like assistant directors and such. Like that's crazy to me because assistant directors, school education manager, like whatever your position is within the school, like if you're in an admin position, you should be salary because you're going to be pulling the weight of what our actual hourly teachers can't, right? If there is a crazy something or another and parents aren't picking up till 5:30 one night, guess who's staying? The director, the assistant director, the members of the admin team are staying last. They're not going home first. But that includes myself too. Like I will jump in a classroom if you need me to because that's what you do when you care. And that's the difference between I feel like corporate and private is in corporate. I don't know. I'm leaving at 4, so I'll see you tomorrow. No, we don't do that here. We have each other's back. We take care of each other. Knowing your worth. This is a big thing that's different too. And we kind of talked about it a little bit when I was talking about how you actually have freedom. But knowing your worth, I think, is so empowering because once you decide to leave that crappy corporate job, and again, I know not every corporate job is crappy. I'm just saying in my experience. You decide to leave that crappy corporate job, right? And they beg you to stay. They offer you more money. You're like, I'm good. It's fine. You know you're worth more when they start begging you to stay and offering you money after you decide to leave. But know that is your opportunity and time for you to escape. Just know. Ah, the awkwardness of talking about pay is in private childcare. You don't want to abide by my policies, you can't come. There is no like whole line that I have to go down. No. Here's my handbook. This is what I expect. Don't do it. Goodbye. That's it. So nice. And then boundaries. Boundaries are important. Overtime, oof, I get this one a lot. I have teachers, employees, all the people that ask for overtime. I love that. Thank you for letting me know that if I need someone to stay late, you're going to be the one. Typically, we don't run into a lot of overtime, which is great. And all of my admin staff are all salary employees, but in corporate, you are working overtime like nobody's business. Like nobody's business. I swear, like I said, working 50 something hours a week, crazy. And then the personal and versus the professional lines. So personally, I feel like I can, what do you call that? Hee haw with you. We can talk, we can laugh, we can joke. But then there's a time where you have to be professional. I don't feel like in corporate they do a super good job of making sure those are very definitive lines. They kind of blur them, and then when they get crossed, they get mad. So a little bit more of the consistency within that would be really helpful. But I would say in private childcare, I don't feel that at all. And my number one reason for why, when I left, I was like, okay, private is hands down where I needed to be. Families that we currently have that come to our schools treat me like family and my kids. They treat me and my kids like we're family. They know my name. I know their name, their first and last. I probably know their grandmas or their aunties or uncles. Like, that's how it should be. That's the relationship you should be like building. I can tell you that half the families in corporate, like you would try to get to know them. It's just not the same. It's very vastly different. And then the confidence growth. So when I came out of my corporate childcare job, like I felt confident, but now I feel confident. I know that if there's a situation that happens, I'm taking care of it. I know that if a decision needs to be made, I'm taking care of it. I know that it doesn't really matter what the issue may be. I've got it. It's going to be taken care of. And then owning your expertise. So here's another piece that you kind of have to dig into when it comes to private versus corporate. Owning your expertise means that I literally can market myself in any way that I see fit. My current boss, she's great and helped me get my first children's book published. We started this podcast together. We've been doing all of the things that we want to do simply because they make us better humans. They give us more confidence. And this just builds to our ability to be able to help our people and our teams and our schools. It's really just kind of what it comes down to. And here's what no one ever tells you between corporate and childcare. Rapid fire, because I've been on a kick about this lately, and Jess really enjoys when I do it too. You'll doubt yourself even when you're qualified in corporate childcare world. You will. It's the inevitable. You'll miss the stability sometimes when you leave, of course, but you'll feel alone without your coworkers. That might be true, but you're going to make better ones. You'll realize how undervalued you were. I figured that out pretty early on. And you'll grow faster than you ever expected. That is the piece, right? That is my whole piece out of what I took away from leaving corporate childcare. Okay, here is what you should be thinking about if you're debating whether or not you want to go work for a corporate childcare facility or a private childcare facility. Research your facilities first, right? You want to know any of their inspection reports that came back that maybe weren't so great. You'll want to research their reviews on the Google because the Google's going to tell you everything you need to know. You're going to want to create a very firm, non-negotiable list, right? So when I left corporate childcare, I knew without a doubt that I wanted to make sure that I got to be mom first. In my current position, I do. If my kids need me, everyone knows that I am there because my kids are more important, obviously, than anything else. Network with other people and get a feel of kind of what they're looking at, or if they've worked for another facility, or if maybe they've come from private and they're going into corporate. So you guys can kind of balance each ideas off each other. And my last one is don't burn bridges, because you'll never know. I like to talk to the people that I no longer work with because I like them as humans. Even my boss, my old boss, if I were to see them out and about, I probably would still catch up and say, hey, I would be excited to tell them where I came from, like where I'm at now and what I've been doing. If you burn the bridge, though, there is no going back. You basically set it on fire and walk away. Corporate childcare made me capable, but coming over to a private childcare center made me confident. And I think that's the symbolization of my growth and my journey within my career. And sometimes growth looks like leaving what's secure to build what's aligned. This is crazy. All right, well, I'm super glad that we got an opportunity to deep dive a little bit more into the difference between corporate childcare and private childcare and kind of where I fit in between all of the things. Um, I miss my co-host and partner in crime, Jessica, so I'm hoping she'll be on next week's episode. But for now, please like, follow, and listen to any upcoming episodes that we might have going on. And I hope you all have a beautiful day. Goodbye.